by Timberlake, League & Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. Happy anniversary! It's our anniversary. 31 Law Call has been on 30 years. Isn't that amazing? For 30 years, we've answered thousands of questions, and if we knew the answer, or tried to point you in the right direction if we didn't know the answer, or complimented you on coming up with something the courts really needed to test if it was really out there. Call in your thoughts or your questions tonight. 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. You can call in and be live on the air. You can text us and send us your messages that way. You can also email a legal question on any legal topic any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we'll pull some out. But tonight we're celebrating our 30-year anniversary, a relationship with you. Michael Tiberlake's here.
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
I think I've been here for 15 to 20 of those. Have you been here for all 30?
You know, when it got started, and I was here almost at the inception. I can't say it was when it was started, but I was very, very, very close.
How did it get started? What was the idea?
You know, there were some group of lawyers we were working with at the time, had a great idea. Wasn't my idea to have a live legal call-in show, and it got started there. Robert Lane is still the producer, was heavily involved in that, and is still helping us make it happen today.
To take you back, that was 1996. Yeah. What do you remember about 1996? How about the #1 movie?
It was Independence Day with
I
Will
love
Smith,
that movie.
right?
That was a great movie.
It was good, very good.
#1 TV show.
ER.
There's some famous people from that show.
Absolutely.
#1 song.
Oh, the Macarena. That's one of those things we may forget and try to forget.
That could go away.
Right.
The hot toy at the time was the Tickle Me Elmo. Were there any
they
recalls
still
on
have
that
a
one?
Tickle Me Elmo.
They do, and Elmo's still around.
Right,
and
30 years.
The slang word at the time.
Whatever.
It's so funny to think
I think
back.
it's still widely used.
That's still out there.
Yeah.
At the time, there was we really weren't using the internet, right?
Oh, they were talking about like text.
No cell phones.
You couldn't text calls into the show.
Yeah. You
couldn't email calls into the show.
Yeah.
Couldn't call on well, I think maybe some people had cell phones at that point, but it was very rare, and it was really you pick up the rotary phone and call in on Sunday night.
We have some old pictures. Have you changed at all?
Not at all.
Looking good.
Not at all.
Still looking
since
good.
1996.
Still looking good. There's Will League.
Yep, and
looking good. That's what he was looking like in 1996.
He went straight from high school to law, and that's his high school picture. And
Heath
Brooks. It was just a baby.
He was a baby.
1996.
You think he was a baby? How about Bobby Marsh? No,
William
William Meservey. He was a baby.
Well, what's funny is his son Henry looks just like that picture. I said, well, don't send me a picture of Henry. Send me a picture of you. And he goes, that is me.
I love it.
And then Bobby Marsh.
He truly was a baby at the time.
He was a baby. He was the baby.
And that's me from about 96, back when I was doing TV news for the most part, and got back out and was practicing law. It's been fun. It's been very interesting. The legal profession has changed a bit too. The way we do things
certainly
has changed in 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, from the we used to you make copies in triplicate on a typewriter, and then you take them to the clerk's office and you would punch them in, and then you take your copy, you'd have to deliver one to the opposing side, and then the clerk would get one. Now it's we do it with a punch of a button. We do it on a computer. There's computer filing, the clerk's office. It's so efficient. It's amazing. The judges, we don't meet in person with the judges all the time. We have Zoom conferences, video conferences, things like that. Much more efficient. It's not quite as personable, but it saves a ton of time.
Things turn around really quickly too. So I would say 30 years ago, if you filed something at the court clerk's office, it would be a week or two before you'd get a motion back, right? An order.
Yeah, and I don't, they had to sort through it, do their file thing.
Get it to the judge.
When it got to the judge, and then, what happens? Now everybody gets everything immediately.
It's good. And it's
good,
bad.
Right?
Well, I mean, it's busier. Your dad is also a lawyer, and we had talked a little bit about the changes from his time.
Sure.
It's the same for us.
Yeah,
We're all feeling a little bit older.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of it, or it will take you away if you don't.
Being on the show, do you remember doing some of the first shows? Were you nervous doing the first shows?
I remember the first show that I did, and I was like, "This is going to be a problem."
Why? What were you thinking?
Somebody's going to call in that I know. You know, I'm just
Friends
gonna,
will call you with
I'm
a-
going to melt. I'm not going to know the answers to any questions.
Admiralty law question,
Yeah,
right?
right. And that was before I learned that if you didn't know the answer, you could just kind of make it up.
There you go. That's the secret to law in general, isn't it? Do you get recognized?
Yes, you know,
From doing the show?
and a lot of it is like, I know you from somewhere, and they don't necessarily pick it up right off the bat that
Yeah.
from the show, but it's always fun to, you know, talk to people
Yeah.
that watch the show over
Yeah.
the years and whatnot. It's
A lot of
great.
times they'll say it's your voice, right?
Yeah.
I get the voice. You see, are you my cousin? Are you
Yeah.
my neighbor? Oh, I know you from that thing.
It's like, how do I know you?
Yeah.
So.
Do judges treat you different from this? A little bit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, you know, lawyers watch the show, and a lot, you know, a lot of times lawyers will, you know, they'll compliment us on the way that we handled
Yep.
a dicey topic or something like that.
Yep.
But they're also the first portion of, you know, people to point out that we didn't fully explain something. You know, there's a time element
Yeah.
here that we have to deal with, or that, you know, that when we get stumped, they love it. You know, it's and we'll sometimes just declare.
Yeah.
You know, we can't answer that question.
And sometimes lawyers will say, hey, I watched that show you were doing on whatever it is, bankruptcy. If they're not a bankruptcy lawyer,
Sure.
they'll watch and they'll say, I learned something off of that. Or
Right,
social
right.
security things. If you're not a social security lawyer, sometimes folks will say, I learned something
Just
off that.
On guests on the show,
Yeah.
an
We
unbelievable
learn.
amount of information I learned in the, you know, first 5-10 years of my practice, you know, from guests on the show talking about things on an everyday basis, just normal, you know, questions that lay people have that lawyers can explain.
Yeah. And you know who to call later if you get something in that field, right?
Sure.
Or if you've got more questions
Absolutely.
about it.
Absolutely.
You got, what would you say are the top questions that have been called in over the
mean,
past 30 years?
I mean, the craziest thing is that like the most popular topic ever seems to be trees and boundary lines and neighbors. And is that who does that tree belong to? And that tree fell on my property, and who has to clean it up? And what's the,
Yeah.
you know, what happens if the limb falls, or the, you know, if the fruit from their tree falls on my property? Who gets to keep it?
Yeah.
Those kinds of questions have kept us going for 30 years.
You know, as much as technology changes, and I know that we talk about AI and AI is going to change a lot, going into a courtroom, you're still going to have a lawyer go into a courtroom. I don't think they're going to approve any robots anytime soon.
No.
And being in front of a jury is
Sure.
a skill to interact with people like that.
Well, I think that's the you know, and that's one of the things that translates from this environment to what we do on a regular basis, which is talking to people in a courtroom. You know, all the lawyers in our firm are well versed in the law, and we handle ourselves well in front of people. And I think, you know, I owe a lot to, you know, being on TV. You know, you have to know, you know, somewhat what you're doing when you come into this environment. And it's the same way in a courtroom. It's like you need to understand what you're going to talk about, be prepared, and be able to think on your feet if something doesn't go exactly the way you want it
Yeah.
to.
Something will fall out of the ceiling or something will
Yes.
happen.
Or there will be wasps in the ceiling, or there'll be a bird in the studio.
Or the caller won't be there. You won't hear it.
Yeah.
You can't hear it. Something went wrong or you can't understand it. But
Or the caller knows you. Hey, man, you know me.
yeah. How about my case?
Yeah.
How about my case?
Yeah.
So do you think the show's going to be around in 40 years? You got predictions?
I mean, I got nothing. The media market had changed. Everything changes so quickly
Yeah.
today with regard to social media and traditional media, and it's just really going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
how long we can do it. We still love doing it, so I
Yeah.
hope so.
It has changed that a lot of people who watch are able to look some things up on the internet, right? They're now able to text us a question, but sometimes they'll say, hey, I looked this up on the internet. What do you find among people who are coming to you for a case? Is their research good of what they found on the internet, or is it hampering them?
I mean, it's kind of a two-way street. One is some people that are more educated when they come in, they understand the vernacular a little bit, and they're a little more well-versed in what we're going to talk about. So there's not as much, you know, explaining the basics to some folks. But in general, the way that the law applies in certain situations and logistically in real life is a lot different than it does on GPT.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of times it's one of those things you just have to explain to people. I know that's what it says, but here's a real life explanation.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
It's sometimes frustrating that as long as you've been doing this show, people will call in with very serious cases.
Sure.
But they've still missed deadlines, right? Every show we're talking about statute of limitations, and you've got a certain limited period of time. It's sad for people to call in and they'll tell us about a car accident that happened 5 years ago or more.
Yeah. I mean, and it's in the law, everybody wants some certainty, and it's fair for both sides to have some time frame where people can file claims. But it is very unfortunate when people don't understand what their rights are, and they miss something like that. And that's kind of why we enjoy doing this. We don't want anybody to get taken advantage of. We don't want anybody to get anything they're not supposed to get. But at the same time, if they have a valid claim, we want to make sure that they vet it with the right people and then go through the right process, and they can get compensation if they deserve it, or they get just candid legal advice about the value of their claim.
Time can get away from us.
Yes, absolutely.
We've got callers waiting. Let's try John from Russellville. Hi, John. Thank you for calling in tonight. Happy anniversary.
Yes, I was calling to ask a question. I have a family member that was trying to start a business last year, a lawn care business, and he had got a call, text messages from a guy that was claiming to be he was a military guy, and so he sent checks and stuff like that, and we got the checks and everything, and the family member got the checks and took them to his bank. The bank accepted the checks, so the checks was in the bank. And so then at the same time, the bank said a week later, after he had got some cards that the guy that sent the checks told him to get 2 cards and put the money on them and send them back to him, send the money back to him. I forgot how it was done. But the bank is trying to make him pay back $4,000. And I thought that banks have what you call a fraud thing, so whenever somebody, do something like that, they would make sure that the bank takes care of that. But they accepted the checks and everything, so do he need a lawyer, or how does he go about handling this case?
Yeah, I mean, it's really complicated in terms of banking rules and what happens. What you really need to understand is just because somebody presents you a check and a bank cashes that check and posts it to your account, it doesn't necessarily mean that money is there. That money still has to clear the bank. Banks have different time frames for clearing, and if it's a large check, certainly we do it all the time in our practice. We'll hold checks for 30 days to make sure that the money actually clears, and especially if it's a personal check, somebody writes a significant amount of money, you want to make sure that it's not just posted in the bank, that it does clear the bank. And the regulations are very difficult. If it's a fraud claim, if it's somebody that forged a check, that can be one of those things that the bank can go back and try to recoup the money if they get defrauded, but that takes a lot of time. But if it is just somebody that's written a bad check and you've written out money on it, it can come back to haunt you, and your only recourse would be against the person that wrote the check.
Yeah. Certified checks would be the way to go, right?
Certified
those
checks,
can't come
cashier's checks,
Yep.
bank checks. Those are the types of things that you want to talk about when you're dealing with lots of money.
Thank you for the call, John. They're telling us to take a quick break. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back talking about our anniversary.
Tiberlake, League and Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, the Tennessee Valley's only live legal call-in show for 30 years and counting. Presented by the award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm Tiberlake, League and Brooks, featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Tiberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Meservey, attorney Bobby Marsh, and hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. Your rights, your calls, live. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back. We are celebrating 30 years of Law Call, and we've put together a little bit of video for you. Take a look at some of the memories over the years. Try to not focus on the wrinkles that developed. Watch for the different sets that we've used over the years.
The hair loss.
Yeah, the hair
And
loss.
welcome to the first legal call-in show in the Tennessee Valley dedicated to your legal questions.
31 Law Line is on the air.
WAAY 31 Law Line.
You know, Don, at the end of the day, folks are interested in the law. You see all these shows on TV, and, you know, it's got the big cliffhanger and the big shocker at the end
By
of
the
the
way,
trial.
is life being a lawyer like Boston legal? I mean,
I wish. I wish.
If you can, if you got a camera handy, take a picture. Take a picture of what you tripped over, the
Yeah.
hole that you stepped in. You never know.
And everybody's
If it's
got
gonna be
cell phone
filled in,
cameras
you know.
now.
Well, how much does TV cost?
About $300.
Okay. Well, you could go to small claims court. Small claims court's kind of like Judge Watman in the People's Court, but it's in district court in Madison County. What county are you in?
Welcome to the first legal call-in show in the Tennessee Valley.
31 Law Line is on the air.
WAAY 31 Law Line.
Right, that's a big deal for all these injury kind of cases.
That's correct. Kind of like baking a cake. You know, you need the damages, but you also need the liability, and you also need what caused the damages. So, you know, if you don't have the sugar and the flour and the eggs for a cake, same thing with a medical malpractice. You don't have a cake.
What your rights are. And we've got Heath Brooks, who's an associate in our firm, does a great job for us, and he's here to answer all your questions so I can sit back and just watch.
Just take it easy.
And if you don't bring your lawsuit within that 2-year period, your claim is lost and barred forever. So if the malpractice occurred back in 1972, your time statute for which you would have to bring a lawsuit in Alabama will have expired by this point.
You know, have to look and see the appropriate ways of heating up a can. How many different ways could you heat up soup, Timberlake?
Well, you know, if
We
you
could
heat
take a
it,
poll.
yeah, I'm sure the manufacturer didn't really foresee that people would be heating it up on the manifold of a bulldozer. So.
We're going to be taking your calls and questions. We've got some callers waiting, but you brought with you a great partner to help answer questions.
Yes, and he's an expert in scuttlebutt. we got William Meservey, he's one of our partners here, and he's, he's the guy that I walk down the hall and say, hey, man, what about this?
Right? And they say, well, you started at point A, and you're supposed to go to point B down the road, but you went up to point C and ran by your house.
Yeah.
Got you a little sandwich.
Yeah.
And then you drove by the bank and, pulled out some money for the weekend.
Yeah.
And then that's where the accident happened.
Bobby, what are personal injury cases?
Well, personal injury cases cover a variety of things, Sharon. They cover everything from a slip and fall in a store to a motor vehicle accident to a construction accident. I mean, all kinds of different things.
30 years. A lot of changes over 30 years.
Yeah.
We've got
but I feel the same.
I feel the same, yes. We've got callers waiting. We've got Claude on the line calling from Bridgeport. Hi, Claude. Thanks for calling in. How are you tonight? Happy anniversary. Claude, are you with us from Bridgeport? One more try. Claude from Bridgeport. You know, it was interesting, some of the things that we were talking about there, things that have changed over time. So 30 years ago, people didn't have cell phones.
No.
So if they had an accident, they weren't taking pictures.
No.
Right? There's been a lot of technology.
Yeah, I mean,
and that changes things.
Well, it really has made being able to present evidence in courtroom that you get that's almost simultaneous with the wrecks.
Yeah.
Between we have cameras in cars, we have surveillance cameras in stores, we have cameras on phones, we have the ability to really document the evidence in these cases a lot better than we ever did before, and it's made it, from our perspective, you're really able to it makes it a lot easier to tell someone what their rights are, because you're not dealing with shades of gray or a Polaroid or something.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
You've really got great evidence.
You could also be caught, though, if you're carrying your cell phone, right, somebody can get a hold of the information from the phone to know how fast you were going.
Right. Yeah, so it's the technology is just kind of amazing. And insurance companies can use that technology to determine what your rates need to be, if you're a safe driver or not, if you were on your phone at the time, if you were doing, texting, which was not a thing 30 years ago at all. There's a lot of different ways that incidents have occurred or do occur these days that there weren't in the used to be with somebody like maybe they were drinking coffee, maybe they were putting on their makeup, maybe they were yelling at their kids,
fiddling with
the radio,
yeah.
And now it's none of that. It's all phones.
Yeah, we've had a lot of guests over the years. What kind of guest? Favorite guest or kinds of guests we've had?
My favorite guest is Sharon Doviet.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
Glad to be here. We've had a lot of interesting things.
We've had senators, we've had Congress people, we've had mayors, we've had district attorneys, we've had judges, we've had lawyers from all different walks of life. So it's really been, from our standpoint, we've had a very, very large variety of folks to try to help people understand, what they do, and that sometimes it's legal related and sometimes it's legal-ish, but it's just about getting information out to the public about, people that do things in government.
Text coming in from Kim in South Huntsville. She says, thank you, happy 30th. Kim's asking, should the TSA agents be able to receive unemployment benefits if they quit? All the TSA agents that are not getting paid.
Sure.
We traveled over the past couple of days. Thank all of them who are working.
Right.
Do you think they'd be able to get unemployment if they quit?
It's really kind of there are federal employees and they're contract employees, and would really kind of be determined by that. But typically they are ready, willing, and able to work, but they're not getting paid. So they would be unemployed. As long as they were looking for a job, unemployment would typically provide compensation.
We've got Amy on the line with a question or comment from Decatur. Hi, Amy. Thanks for calling in. How are you tonight? Happy anniversary. Hey, Amy, are you with us? If you would turn down your TV and just listen through your phone, because there is a little delay. Amy from Decatur.
Some things never change.
Some things don't. It's just like this.
It's just the way it is.
I noticed the video that they played too. High definition came in over the years.
Oh, that was a big, big deal. We've had high definition and different kind of lights, and we did stress over high definition a little bit.
That was
in terms
uncomfortable.
Of,
The lights are cooler now, right? So it used to be a lot hotter up here.
I think it works out.
It's good. It's good.
It's all good.
You've had a lot of cases in 30 years. What are some of the biggest cases?
We've worked
Tiberlake
on
League's taken?
thousands of cases, involving individuals and primarily our firm does personal injury work. So that's been it between medical malpractice cases, car wrecks, things like that. We worked with a lot of people on the Lee bus crash case.
Right. Yeah.
That was a big case that we worked on for a long time. And a big event in Huntsville, there were some, a number of different events at the hospital that we worked on with. One was with a CT scanner. There were some with some dialysis filters that were big,
Wow,
big,
malfunctioning or something like that.
Yes, product liability claims. And
wow. Amy was calling in asking about how long it takes to do a certain kind of case. She was asking about how long should it take to probate a will.
It doesn't take 30 years.
Not 30 years.
No.
It should be done by now.
Exactly.
Different kind of cases take different lengths of time. And people want an answer. I wish you could just check a box and say, yeah, your case is going to take an excellent amount of time.
A lot of times, lawyers are kind of at the mercy of the court system in a lot of ways. So the court system will set your case for trial. The court system will review the documents it's got. And they kind of have to rack and stack what they've got. So sometimes things go, lightning fast. Sometimes things are delayed. So it's hard to give people a general idea about what happens. Probating a will, you've got to probate the will, give some, if you've got everybody on board, you don't have to publish or anything like that, and you've got a 6-month time period for creditors. So sometimes those things can get done within a year. If there's a lot of property, if it's complicated, it can go, and there's people that aren't cooperating, it can go a lot longer than that. So it's hard to give you a real, set figure.
We're going to take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions.
this station.
If you haven't gotten your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Michael Tiberlake. Tiberlake, League and Brooks in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
That's been my phone number for 30 years.
30 years!
And if you have questions about family law, you can contact Sharon Doviet in Huntsville, 256-539-7337 and at SharonFamilyLaw.com.
In the last seconds, what you got?
Just thanks to the viewers. Thanks for everybody that stays up late on a Sunday night and watches our show for 30 years. We appreciate your time, your involvement, and keeping us on the air.
We love it when you say hello in the stores. Thank
Absolutely.
you.